All right, hello. It is a pleasure as always to be here. This is B, and we would love to be able to take a moment first to settle in a bit, to sit back into some peace, to find your center, so to speak. Just to settle into a place of silence. Now, the point of this video, what we're speaking into today, is just broadly, what is the second paradigm? How are all of these statements on the website or the titles of these videos about peace and trusting yourself and intuition, how is that a comprehensive worldview in any way, shape, or form? How is it possible to do that? To just trust yourself? And what even does that mean? We'd love to start by just broadly looking at the landscape of the world and the things that compel the large majority of individuals to make decisions. And when we start from that place, there's a very clear driver that encourages striving, that encourages getting into that new relationship or making things work, or even personal development as a whole. Wanting to alter the circumstances that are here, wanting to make things better. And that main motivation is that internal feeling that there is a problem. There is a significant problem with your individual life, with all of the circumstances that are here, both by your doing and by the external world. And that feeling is so common that it can almost seem as if it is a healthy form of striving or goal setting or making things better. There's a blanket rationalization that sits on top of this kind of blanket discomfort of there's something wrong with me or my life, probably both, and I need to be able to do something about that. I need to be able to make more money in order to not only survive and get by with less pain, with less hardship, but to be able to expand into a more comfortable life. Because the things that are uncomfortable here about my life right now, it's the square footage, it is the fit and trim of my car, it is the gas mileage that we are getting, or it is this boss that I need to be able to rise through the ranks to be able to get around in some way, or it is the supervisor that I need to be able to figure out how to work with better. There's this blanket feeling of if I only did this, and then this, and then this, and then this, then my life would be significantly better, and that discomfort would go away. But as almost everyone discovers throughout the process of life, that feeling of discomfort, that hollow feeling, that there must be more to life than this feeling, doesn't go away no matter what you do, no matter what you achieve. So it doesn't matter if you get married, it doesn't matter if a new relationship orbits into your life, or if you leave a toxic, terrible relationship. It doesn't really matter what you are doing, that feeling doesn't go away by the external circumstances. There is nothing you can do externally to make that feeling change, because at the core of it is this perpetual scanning for problems. And really, the entire personal development industry and even just general positive thinking enforces that internal feeling and reinforces that internal feeling of not being enough, of needing to do something better, to have something better, needing to become a better person to fill the insufficiencies that are here. Now, when you look at that psychology, just as a blanket psychology that sits on top of your collective, of your world, of your society, and you zoom out, it's quite possible to simply not do it. You can look at it almost as if it were this foreign, odd psychology and simply choose at some point to start to opt out of that rat race, so to speak. And when people use the word rat race, that's typically what they're speaking to, is opting out of that perpetual cycle of looking for problems to solve that never end, because the problem is not externally. It is this internal feeling that there is a problem to begin with, and nothing can satiate that psychology. So what we are doing in the second paradigm, what David and Miriam are doing in the second paradigm, is helping people to get okay with the decision that they've already made to opt out of that perpetual striving to solve problems about themselves from deep places of insecurity and about their circumstances from that unsettled feeling that nothing will ever be okay or enough. And when you begin to take that path, many individuals call that a spiritual awakening, when you realize that the world, there is more to life than just the meaningless rat race. There is more to life than perpetual striving. Many Eastern traditions talk about that, which is why they've become so popular in the Western world. And much of what's in the Western world has become popular over in the Eastern world. Spiritual traditions are crisscrossing, and the output from really a large sharing and churning of everyone's best spiritual ideas from around the world are coming together into this, you know what, there has to be more to life than this feeling, and there has to be something I can do about it. But it's not by pressuring through my life and all of the things that are here in front of me. It has to do with something in here. So this is the spiritual journey that many people are taking, completely separate from the second paradigm. And what we, myself, David and Miriam, are doing is helping to lay a context for those that wish to develop within that spiritual journey a technology of peace. A technology of trusting themselves from a place of embodied peace. And what is required to develop that technology is allowing all of those internal mechanisms to freak out. I'm going to die. I'm never going to be anywhere. I'm never going to be anyone if I don't chase these things, right? Allowing all of those striving mechanisms, the same psychology that most every spiritual person is able to identify at the beginning. It's allowing those things to still play out because the neural circuitry is still there, the emotions still fire, the striving mechanism still present, but not giving them the time of day. Beginning to opt out of that meaningless treadmill. Now, it's challenging to opt out of that meaningless treadmill because everyone's doing it. And the minute you don't, there's social pressure to not, and you seem as though you're a failure. That's the social pressure that keeps everyone pressed into that same mechanism. You no longer make sense to the people who are continually striving because everyone has problems and everyone's bettering their life. And if you're not bettering your life, then you're not a successful person. You don't have the right mindset. You're not being positive. You're not continuing to get ahead. You're being lazy. You're slacking off. You're never going to amount to anything. And somehow you're okay with that. That isn't okay. The psychology, not just within you, but externally starts pressing in on you. So it's a challenging thing to develop this technology of what we'll call peace. But there's a benefit to it. And the benefit of it is when you learn to build the solidity to be at peace, even when your own body is freaked out and when the world around you is freaked out, you develop the capability to actually act as yourself and to make decisions as yourself. And that's such a foreign and odd concept because, of course, I was making decisions as myself previously, except for they were more impulses to respond to an internal feeling of things not being right, things not being enough. There are more impulses to respond to an internal tension. It's almost an internal rebellion. And to say that a rebellion is the same as a movement is really not giving credit to what those two things are and not acknowledging the differences between them. Pushing off of something is not the same as moving towards something. So what happens when individuals across the planet are able to make decisions not from a place of rebellion against a old biological mechanism. You could even say your old evolutionary hardware. If that striving were no longer the core central motivation for life, but instead it were your own genuine desires, the things that are really here for you, the things that you genuinely wish to be doing, the occupation you genuinely wish to be moving toward, and the life that you wish to build around that. Now, it tends to start in that place, and at some point, things continue to open up even more, and there's an even deeper feeling of mission and purpose, and these phenomenological experiences that have to be taken into consideration. It's a little bit odd that David's channeling in the first place, these are the things we're speaking to. It's a little bit odd that David's not the only one doing this, and people all around the world are having these phenomenological experiences, experiencing other beings and energies, and being able to move those energies within not only their body, but someone else's body, the energetic body work and massage, various types of work that alter not just the thought space, but also the emotional space, seemingly all at the same time. This unifying field of energy that somehow encapsulates both emotion and thought and can move in a moment's notice, not just with intention, but by someone else helping. There's other things here than just this distilled down, rational, meaningless landscape. There's more here than just physical reality. So at some point, all of that's taken into consideration as well. And what comes out of this is this sense of not only freedom and liberation to be able to make decisions, not from a place of responding to internal tensions and pain, but from genuine desires or genuine feelings of mission and purpose. What comes from this is this overwhelming sense of being able to be yourself really for the first time in life. And there's no way to describe it outside of the actual experience. Once you've experienced it, those words mean something. And before you've experienced it, those words really mean nothing. But being able to experience life as yourself. Being able to feel as though everything you do, whether that be almost nothing throughout the day or a large variety of tasks all back to back, somehow were perfect, ideal. And in this place, there becomes possible a very real relationship with divinity, a very real relationship with God that is not manufactured through rule sets, that has nothing to do with chasing eternal salvation, and has everything to do with real-time, moment by moment, being able to make decisions that are beneficial for everyone and everything through the recognition that divinity is essentially outputting constantly to every person everywhere that feeling of the ideal that can be decoded, that can be experienced to such great depths that it's you can almost see the future. You can almost peer into that ideal and pull it to you. There is a continual real-time relationship with this force that is delivering the ideal that at one point only felt like conscience. Oh, my conscience is telling me to be a good person, but forget the rule sets. That feeling of conscience, that feeling of a larger organizing force to reality, those feelings of synchronicity develop into a real-time, very distinct, very defined, very built out and specific relationship with divinity. So this is a bit of what the second paradigm is and really what this overarching arc looks like for the journeys that individuals are going through that find us, David and Miriam, at various points in their life. And our role in all of this is one, to describe it, is to be able to put words to it. And that's something that me, myself, am doing. That is the main function of why I'm here, to be able to help David essentially have this outside perspective. And together we can push the edges, but he's here on the ground floor and I'm simply not. And he and Miriam are both in their own unique ways bringing their own unique gifts, their own unique life's missions and purposes to the playing field, so to speak, and are able to transmit and share the ideas that they're getting, are able to speak into the ideal that they're feeling within their being and reference that against the ideal that those who are here within the second paradigm are getting within their own being. And the point of all of this, how the second paradigm functions within this landscape, is really to offer one, that context, but to be able to speak to that ideal because it is a larger intelligence, to be able to speak to this journey because it is so available and because it's so specific and looks so similar across a wide variety of people, regardless of the journey. The context is the same, even though when the content's often so different. That feeling of I'm going to die if I don't do A, B, and C, and D, wide variety, but that feeling itself is essentially the same across everyone because it's biology. It's just what's here on your planet at this time. So through the context, through various chapters of explaining what's happening while it's happening, we're essentially able to expedite the journey. There are things that would not play out in the sequence that they would not play out as efficiently, as smoothly if we weren't doing this. There are things that are incredibly difficult to see without the external feedback, without the external looking in and saying, yep, that's entirely standard. That is, again, that same feeling of, yeah, I'm going to die if I don't do A, B, C, and D. And as soon as you see it, it becomes almost purposeful to feel that same suffering. It becomes almost purposeful to feel that same mechanism going out and witnessing that you aren't actively letting it rule every single aspect of your life or take you down long roads that you already know aren't going to pan out well. So generally, broadly, this is what we're doing here, and it boils down to little catchphrases like, if you have problems, you've been lied to. Or keep going, keep trusting, and welcome home. Or trust yourself above everything else, settle back into peace. There's, in a way, a slightly different vocabulary here within this body of work. But the experience is really the thing that ultimately we, David and Miriam, are attempting to describe as accurately as possible, so that every single step along the journey of pushing off of the world's various impulses and biological impulses all the way to the fullest liberation of your own unique soul as connected to all of divinity, so that that whole journey can be not only articulated but can be relayed back in the moments that it's happening, so that you know that ultimately you're on the right track and that everyone feels a little bit crazy as they're walking the path, walking away from what so much of the world around them is doing. Everyone feels a little bit odd. Everyone feels a little bit heartbroken as individuals don't completely understand what they're doing. Everyone feels as though it's never going to end, that suffering is just an inherent piece of life and it's impossible to ever overcome it or to do anything about it. Everyone feels those dark nights of the soul, and to know that, to have context for that, and to be able to see the larger trajectory of why you are doing it and why reality is so incessant, is so insistent on you doing it, why reality is pressing in so hard, why your own soul is speaking to you so fully. Being able to understand that helps expedite the journey, and at some pivotal points helps make it possible. So it's a pleasure to be able to play that role. On this end, we know David and Miriam are incredibly excited about playing that role continually and love paving the edges of it and seeing what's possible with that technology of peace. But for the moment, if you were curious about what the second paradigm was, we hope you were able to find some context there, some little tidbits of understanding of what we're doing over here. And if you're continually curious beyond just this video, there's a lot that we have already brought through with David, and there's a lot that'll continue to come through all the way through all the things we spoke about and beyond, into pressing out your works into the world, pressing out the truth of who you are into the world through business, through other forms of expression. But for the moment, we will take our leave, allow a moment for things to just settle in a bit. And we'd love to thank you for watching, for exploring this. We look forward to seeing some of you very soon, live on our Gold Tail channel nights or in other forms across the ethers as you watch our videos. Regardless, it's a pleasure to be able to be here articulating this. We hope to speak to you at a later time. Bye for now.